Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining today. I see that we are a few people so far. Some already asking when are we starting. We've just started. We're waiting for more people to join. This is the first of many webinars that we will be doing with the support of Mr. Export Africa. I hope you all can see me and hear me. You can put it in the comments, so I'm sure that I'm not talking in vain. So we're going to have this discussion today, this presentation, and your feedback is quite valuable. Facing some difficulties, but anyway, this is the first one and it's a live one, so we're not going to do any editing. I want it to be as natural as possible. Most of you follow me in LinkedIn, so we want to have another way to get in touch with you, and feel free to put your comments in the comments box. Feel free to mention your company. Thank you very much, Konstantinos and Norman and Christine. Thank you all for joining. So feel free to put your comments, like which company are you coming from? What is your experience with Africa? Which part of the world you are right now? And of course, any questions. I don't want this to be like a typical seminar, webinar that I will be talking. Of course, I will be doing most of the talking, but still, I want you to give me your feedback. Today is the first one. Apologies for any mistakes. We are trying really hard at Mr. Export to Africa to provide you with valuable content in order to learn a couple of things throughout our experience. And we'll be doing lots of these, hopefully weekly, with coverage of countries, sectors, markets, etc., etc. Everything is going to be uploaded in our YouTube channel. You can find it there. Of course, the replay is going to be available in LinkedIn. You can get in touch with us whenever you want. So a brief intro about myself. I'm John Kourkoutas. I'm working with Africa and in Africa for quite many years. I'm the founder and CEO of Mr. Export to Africa, among other things that we will be discussing. And the idea is to create a community where we can exchange ideas, we can exchange views. This is something that, if I'm not mistaken, hasn't been done in the past. I've seen some people in the past trying to do similar things about Africa, but mostly not doing business as an exporter or as an investor, rather than doing business as an African in Africa. So this will be completely different. So let's get started with the presentation. I hope you all can see the presentation. So the idea is Africa is buying, and is buying for many years because it's growing, and it's the most lucrative market at the moment. And most of the companies worldwide either want or are thinking doing business there in so many ways that we will be discussing throughout this series. So in the next 45 minutes, and of course we're going to leave some space for the Q&A, where I will be reviewing your comments, so you can start posting your comments throughout the discussion, throughout the presentation. And I will be going through the most, let's say, eye-appealing ones in order to draw some conclusions, to give some answers, to give you my point of view. So At Mr. Export to Africa, we've worked with more than 150 companies from all over the world. We have represented them in Africa, so that gives us a bit of experience, I would say, to be able to talk about doing business in Africa and international trade in general. What we'll be answering today, and of course in the rest of the series, why Africa? It's a huge demand engine that I wouldn't say nobody, but not many people outside of Africa are watching. Reason being that everybody's trying to sell to, let's say, the rich markets or the most comfortable markets, and they're neglecting the less saturated market in the world with the most lucrative metrics, as we will see. Why now? Because after all these years that we've gone through COVID, through ups and downs, Africa is developing at such a fast pace that we've seen wonders happening throughout the last 2 years. So it's really a good opportunity for companies to start looking at Africa. Of course, many of you today are from Africa or doing already business in Africa. So your experience also and your input is going to be very valuable. What I'll be discussing, and that's why we opted to do this live, is not pitching any services or trying to look nice. It's the raw truth. I'm being brutally honest usually, even to companies that approach us and they want to do business in Africa, and sometimes certain companies are not meant to do business in Africa, not because of what they're selling, but because of their mentality. So I'm always brutally honest from the beginning. So apart from Mr. Export to Africa, we have launched ExportIQ.ai, which I welcome you to visit, and you can sign up for free. It's the first tool in the world that is a consolidation of all the tools that we were using all these years, and as exporters, as international traders. So we put it under one umbrella. It looks like ChatGPT, but it's more sophisticated with databases connected, real databases, real data, no hallucination. And it's a tool that we've launched early this year, and we are very proud of it. What you should do, the order of operations that works, this is what everybody wants to know. So we are going to do a short walkthrough of the first steps that someone has to do, because this is, as I told you, the first presentation. In the next ones, we're going to discuss even more advanced things, even more regional things, sectoral things. So today is going to be more generic, just to get to know each other, and of course make sure that everything is running smoothly. And at the end, we'll be answering your questions about your products, about whichever other question you might have. So why should you listen to me? That would be a very good question, and many of the haters outside in the world sometimes come to me and say, why should we listen to someone like you? So I'll give you the reason. Because I've started as a founder, Mr. Export to Africa in 2015, already doing business in Africa for years. My business partner, Kostas Konstantopoulos, joined me, and he has even more experience than me in Africa, especially in Southern Africa. So what we started doing was to help companies do business in Africa. Nobody else was doing it, at least at the level that we tried to do it, because we're not only trying to promote investments and try to go for the big fish, hiding behind computers or hiding behind nice boardrooms and hotel receptions. We are out there on the field. We do the dirty work. We take companies from the hand, take it to the market, doing market entry. We get the intelligence, we get the research. We have people on the ground. We are on the ground always, presence in more than 20 countries in Africa. And we represented all these companies from many sectors across the world, from many, many countries. So whatever I'm going to discuss now and in the following webinars is going to be through experience, not theory. I wasn't born in Africa, but Africa was born in me after certain years. I call Zambia my home in Africa, but of course, I've lived in other places in Africa for quite long periods of time, mostly in Kenya, in South Africa, Mauritius, in many other countries. So Africa has some very incredible and lucrative metrics that we cannot just ignore. 1.5 billion people, and it's going to increase to 2.5 by 2050, with a very low median age. That means most of the future consumers, and of course, most of the future employees, executives, professionals are going to be from Africa. There are many countries with differences and similarities in so many ways. And of course, more than half of the countries right now that are the fastest moving growing economies are African at the moment worldwide. So I'll give you an example that will change your perspective. I'm a fan of maps. I'm a fan of geography. It has taught me how to see the world from another perspective. Whoever of you is following me in LinkedIn all these years, and thank you so much. We've reached around 34,000 followers, and it's quite difficult for such a topic because it's not like we are influencers of lifestyle. We are trying to show everything through examples, through maps, through statistics, through examples. And this is another one that I've posted recently. This is Nigeria in Africa, the green part, you already know it, all of you. And the blue part is Europe, including all Russia, which not all Russia, of course, is Europe. So Nigeria, even though it has 1/3 of Europe's population, it has more births than the whole continent. And every consumer market of the 2030s and 2040s is being born in Africa right now. As I mentioned before, the future customers, your future customers, are growing right now in Africa. So this is something that you should notice. Demography is a demand with a delay. So there are so many sectors that we need to take into account. Different maturity times and levels. It's not as simple as I'm trying to portray today, but still, this is a very good idea that we can get. So the problem that Europe has, as well as other, let's say, more developed regions of the world, like the States or, I don't know, Japan or Australia, is that there's a shrinking demand. The market is very saturated. So many players are dying, are fighting for only a small part of the slice of the whole pie. So it's a fraction of the fraction of the fraction. And the only way is to find new markets, and new markets that are growing, not markets that are dying or are saturated. Another way you can see it is that Africa adds a whole France to its economy in every 6 years. So the top 10 economies combined, which are around 2.13 in dollars, of course, in 2025, are going to grow in 3.8 in 2031, based on IMF projections. And of course, the biggest countries have the lion's share: Egypt, South Africa, Nigeria, Ethiopia, of course, is going to nearly double. And I saw a good comment about the Arabica coffee from Ethiopia. Right now, actually, I'm enjoying a cup of coffee from East Africa. So the imports are different. And don't get me wrong, we usually talk about imports in Africa, exports to Africa, but that doesn't mean that we do not promote investments in Africa, because we are Africans after all these years, and we want this continent to grow. We want this continent to continue growing. So we want it to have investments. We wanted to have certain things that will enable its population to grow even further. So it's not like, even though we are working with companies that want to export to Africa, but many of them are investing, are creating jobs, creating industries, offices, contributing to the real economy. But of course, we need to understand that when a company starts watching Africa, trying to do business in Africa, the first step is to test the waters. And you never test the waters with a huge investment unless you are a giant. I mean, like a multinational company. So the first step always is to start getting some products on the ground, test them, find reliable partners, etc., etc., and then you start investing. And this is what we always advise to companies from all over the world. The ultimate goal and the ultimate success comes from investment. You need to set up facilities, set up warehouses, supply chain, get people on the ground. This is the ultimate way of doing it. So coming back to how the economy is growing in Africa, many companies were reluctant, and whoever was first in the market already has started seeing the advantages. But it's not too late, because it's the last frontier in the global world. So now it's the time for most companies, even at the last minute, to start seeing Africa seriously. Nigeria, of course, being one of the biggest markets, at the same time not one of the easiest markets, I would say. But still, the imports are huge. There are so many drivers that drive this international trade, imports, exports, like urbanization, supermarket chains, tourism, which is growing all across Africa, including Nigeria. And the whole world nowadays is a big village with the internet, social media, AI nowadays. People are very, very interested in testing, trying new things that are not always being produced where we stay. Europeans want products from the States from Europe, Africa from Europe, Asia from Africa. So this is the golden era of identifying who wants what. So the premium European or Western shelf sells so many things, like food, beverages, household materials, so many things. And if you multiply this by 54 countries, of course, you'll tell me not all countries are similar. They're not. But you will be amazed, and we are amazed throughout all these companies that we have representing, targeting so many countries, that sometimes smaller countries and not that, let's say, famous countries can hold more opportunities for certain companies rather than the big ones. Of course, it always depends on the analysis, on the data, on the sector, on the product, on the mentality of the company, but it's never black or white. It's always a shade of gray, somewhere in the middle. You already know that because since you are here, most likely you have read some things about Africa, or you live in Africa, or you are even experts in Africa. So, what companies are very surprised when they start doing business with Africa is how the banking sector works, and of course, how the payment works, because mobile money was born in Africa and it has been exported already to the rest of the world, but still, uh, most of the transactions are happening via mobile money. Of course, the bigger the transfers or the payments or the contracts, of course, the banking system is quite reliable in most countries, at least. Different currencies, of course, but global currencies are used everywhere. So even though when someone wants to go retail, has to implement mobile money, when someone does strictly B2B, he can safely avoid it, at least for the beginning, because the banking sector is also quite well represented. So it's not only mobile money, but this type of traditional banking sector is, let's say, more relevant, and companies are more accustomed from worldwide. But where they find it a bit more difficult is when it comes to mobile money. You already know what I'm talking about, all of you. So I'll just leave you with this nice graph and data. Now, this is a huge thing. And before analyzing this map, let me tell you something. This map hides something bigger. The perception that global companies have when it comes to Africa is completely wrong when they haven't done business with Africa or they haven't visited Africa. And this is just a pity, because they delay or they don't ever do business with Africa, relying on false information. Because the Western media, believe me, I've been in both sides of the world, do not know what is going on in Africa. They think that Africa is lions and safaris and villages with traditional settlements. And when a company visits Africa or starts, at least, uh, seeing it more seriously, they're amazed. It's like, I'll give you an example. It's like China. We always see this supernatural kind of developed technological cities. But if you go to the villages, they are living in poverty and in huts. Same as in Africa. Why do they only portray the other way around? So, coming back to this map, the perception is always or almost always wrong. And the negative stories, because they sell more, they are the ones that are distributed the most. And when companies only hear stories in boardrooms and in Western media and have never been to Africa, they cannot understand not only the opportunities lying there, but also the way that they should approach the whole operation. So the gap is really between perception and reality, and is the exact turning point where the movers, or even more the early movers, make their margin. Whoever can surpass, can understand this difference, has already a huge advantage. Whoever cannot, unfortunately, they stay in their saturated markets, concentrated kind of markets, and they keep on wondering why their company is not growing. So, as we usually say, while your competitors debate the headlines of the Western media, someone right now who hasn't done that is signing with a distributor. This is another map that I'm very proud of, and it shows some of the corridors. So don't start telling me that I've missed many. Yes, I know that I've missed many. You've already told me in the comments in LinkedIn. This post was done maybe a month ago. But the whole point of this map is to go a bit deeper in the geography of Africa. Africa has delayed to develop for many reasons, but some reasons it was Europeans' fault, some reasons were Africans' fault, but I'm not going to debate that. The main reason was the geography itself. The ports that are in Africa are not as easily accessible and not as many as in other continents, with the other extreme extent being the United States, which is a, let's say, 200-300 years country, and it has been developed so much because it has rivers in the inside of the continent of the country that there are ships that can navigate them, and this unfortunately is not the case in Africa. And this map shows us that the corridors from the ocean to the inside of Africa is very important because all the goods are moving through these corridors. The development of certain regions is happening because of these corridors. And don't forget that Africa is a huge continent with not as many ports as it should deserve, but this is only God's choice. So based on that, we need to understand that all the inland logistics and supply chain is happening via road, mostly, in some certain cases with railway, but mostly via trucks. Whoever has been in Africa, they've seen thousands and thousands of trucks moving goods, but they all start from the ports. So these strategic corridors, as I mentioned, all the roads, the rail, the pipelines, are moving goods from the ports to the interior. Or in the other way around, when Africa exports from the interior to the ports for exports. You'll see the latest development, the Lobito corridor, which is going to connect Angola, Zambia, and Tanzania, all the way from Luanda to Dar es Salaam. And another big improvement is the AFTA, which is, let's say, a good opportunity to connect all Africa at last as a big free trade zone. Hopefully, it's going to be successful. Countries are really trying, governments are really trying, but it's not there, of course, yet. But we'll see. But these are the kind of agreements and treatments that Africa needs, because you may know or you may heard that many of the traditional free trade unions, associations, etc., have failed their members. So many members, especially in West Africa, are withdrawing their participation, and this is not a good thing. So yeah, and since I'm talking about West Africa, a certain gentleman, Mr. Riviere from Abidjan, says good morning. So yeah, I mean, many countries in your region, Mr. Riviere, feel that the free trade unions like ECOWAS and all the rest are not representing them. So the whole geography and the whole arrangement of certain things is something extremely important. Another big opportunity for companies across the world is the matter of energy. And energy is not as simple as Westerners think it is, because they have it for granted. They think it's only normal and we always have power. So it's not the case in Africa. During the last 5 years, there have been many cases, especially in Southern Africa, that loss of power and power cuts and load shedding has been huge, affecting not only the households and the daily life of the people, but also the economies themselves, industries not being able to run, and companies, people losing their jobs. So it's very sad that the continent with the most sun over the world has the smallest percentage in renewables, especially in solar. So this map here shows us these regions that have lots and lots of hours per year with sunlight. And this sunlight is a huge drive to bring investments, because indeed it's the sunniest continent on Earth. And it's the least electrified, as we said. So how can you be under the sun without reliable power? So the demand is huge, and there are so many companies across the world that are investing, building huge solar parks in Africa. Most of the governments, if not all, give huge incentives to companies to invest, like huge incentives, like tax incentives, land. There are so many things. So services like this travel easier, lighter than products. It doesn't have logistics, custom clearance. So it's the easiest way. Of course, it needs a big investment, but there are many companies across the world that are looking for investments. And what I said in the beginning, the last 2 years, what we've seen is that there's so much money to be invested in the Western world, and they don't know where to invest it. And because they see Africa as a black box, and I'm not talking about the skin color black, but the black box that the airplanes have, which you don't know what is going on inside. You only see input and output. They're afraid. So this is where we also play a role as a company to make companies understand and educate them that there are certain companies, certain people, lots of them in Africa, reliable countries, reliable governments that welcome and nurture such investments. So the window is not only open, it's wide open, but it's not going to stay open forever, because the same way in other regions of the world, there were opportunities. Whoever went there first was the most successful. At some point, the opportunities were less and less and less. So every map that you see today is from our LinkedIn feed. I publish every day for Africa, as well as our team and our company profile every single day. Feel free to follow and get all these daily updates. So this smiling gentleman, and I'm pretty sure he's smiling at the moment because he's attending this webinar, is my business partner, Kostas Konstantakopoulos, residing in Zambia and in the greater Southern Africa for more than 20 years. So as I told you, we're not just Europeans hiding behind computers. Whatever we say here today, whatever we discuss, whatever we advise, is not theory, is just what we've learned throughout the years, with many mistakes, with many losses, but we daily learn lessons. And it's not like other people didn't try to imitate us. Many did. A few were decent, but none of them has survived. And even though I like competition because it makes us get better, unfortunately, they've failed in helping companies enter Africa, and they went the easy path, which is try to convince companies to invest and facilitate investments, etc., which is not happening every day, and it's a big thing, but it's not what most companies want. Most companies want to do business, they want to trade. And African importers, they want reliable products, reliable partners in order to serve their fellow Africans with quality. Because China has flooded Africa, we know it, for many years with their products, by taking mines, by controlling governments. But it's not the only way. There are so many reliable companies and investors worldwide that if they understand certain things, then definitely things can change. So throughout all these years and after all these companies that were represented, we've seen not only the goods and the bads, the pros and the cons of the procedure of someone entering Africa, but also we've seen things changing. A playbook that worked 10 years ago doesn't work anymore. A playbook that worked 3 years ago doesn't work anymore. And Africa is a place that cherishes and enjoys interpersonal communication. Westerners are more cold, meaning that they want to do business in a cold way. Africans wants to shake hands, sit and have a lunch, sit in the same boardroom and discuss, see each other. So all these interaction that we've done on behalf of our clients and with our clients, with business delegations, with missions, matchmaking events, business development trips, hundreds and hundreds of them. It's the turning point that allows a company to properly understand and then make a plan and a strategy for Africa. So another thing that another reason that we've built Export IQ was that all this information that we are gathering on a daily basis, you can find it in exportiq.ai, free of charge. If you don't want to get to the paid plans, you can get lots and lots of information for free completely. This is an average number, and it applies to most companies that want to do business in Africa. Of course, this is from our numbers, but even if a company wants to go directly to Africa, the average numbers are for every 47 distributors, importers, distributors, etc., that they are going to analyze and qualify, on average, only 12 pass. So this is approximately 25%. And 25% if you do your homework well. If you go blindly, this will be 5%. So there are companies that have fake registration documents or unverified bank references, addresses that don't exist, weak logistics partners, no track record, because all these things seem very good in theory and online, but when you land, when you start digging, then this is the real case. So I advise all the companies that are interested in doing business with Africa, just hop on a plane yesterday and do it on the ground, because you'll have a completely different idea from what you are going to understand online. Another Another approach, another perspective that I would like to state, and I take the example of Zambia, is that most of African countries, they have commodities, raw material that export. Sometimes, for certain sectors, this is a good indication of compatibility with that market. Sometimes it's not. So we see sometimes that there's a huge exporter of raw material like DRC, and we think that this is an ideal market for us. No, there are so many data that we need to analyze before going there. I mean, it's only a part of the story, and it's a small part of the story, because when you see a huge market, you see a giant. I'll give you an example: Algeria, which is a huge country, developed country, but it's not the easiest in doing business. Or Nigeria. Sometimes clients come to us and they tell us, we want to export to Nigeria, and we tell them, is this your first time in Africa? If yes, Nigeria is not the ideal place. It's for more advanced users. It's a big market, it's a strong market, but don't start with Nigeria because it's more difficult, it's more complex. Try with easier destinations to enter. Maybe East Africa or Southern Africa. West Africa is big and it has lots of opportunities, but it's not for the newbies. You have to be a bit more experienced. So when you get to see these types of data, you need to be a bit more, thinking twice. Also, countries that are landlocked are not always a bad option. Sometimes it's the best option. That's why we call them land linked, like Zambia, because it's linked with many countries. You can set up in Zambia and export to all these countries. You can interact, do trading with all these countries. Whereas if you are based in an irrelevant country that has access to the ocean, sometimes you don't have real access in Africa. So there are 16 landlocked countries in Africa, and sometimes the smaller the country and the less important it seems, the most reliable sometimes and the most opportunities you can find, especially in certain sectors. That's why we've chosen Zambia as our base of operations for many years now. Of course, having presence in many other countries, but I'm trying to give you another perspective. With Mr. Export to Africa, what we do for you that you haven't understood and why I have an opinion about all these things is that we don't only do market entry. We don't only help companies export their products. We get them information, raw information, first degree information. We do the market analysis. We do market intelligence, market research, competitors analysis. And after we do that, we're able to advise, and not only advise, this is the key, because every consultant in the world can advise, but who is there to implement? This is the real difference. So we help companies to do as outsourced associates what a very experienced team within their company would do. So we have on the ground representation, and we take care of so many things 360, like logistics, payment structures, negotiations, business development, account development, merchandising. There are so many things in order to give a 360 holistic kind of service. And that's why we are in a position to tell you all these things, because we've seen it one by one. ExportIQ, as I mentioned, feel free to visit it. It's free of charge. There's a free tier with lots of credits to spend, get all the information. It's a very well sophisticated tool with AI capabilities, but also connected with real databases. So you can find lots of information. And of course, only in a paid plan, you can even use the flagship module that we have, the Partner Finder, where you can find reliable partners, importers, distributors with their emails and phone numbers, not generic ones, not info, not support, not call centers. So there are 3 signs to say your company is ready for Africa. And I will be fast. Number 1 is that you have maxed out your current markets. You cannot grow enough because your domestic and existing markets are saturated and your growth has failed. You have a product or a service which can solve universal problems. And those universal problems can be applied as solutions in Africa. And also, all of our clients, before they come to us, they tell us, we've already received a request or a company that wants to help us or that wants to import or buy from Africa. Is it reliable? How can we investigate? And it keeps on coming back. So at some point, they want to see it seriously. So for everyone today, and this is something that is not happening frequently, we're going to provide a 30-minute consultation in the next 2 months. Whoever is interested, you can get in touch with us to our emails, LinkedIn, wherever, completely free of charge, no obligations. And we are going to discuss especially your case. And when I say especially, customized with our truthful, honest opinion, and you might get something valuable after 30 minutes of such. Another big thing, and we're getting to the end because I would like to also read some comments and comment on the comments, is that Africa has thousands of local language, but unfortunately, because of the colonization in the past centuries, there are blocks of countries speaking some European languages like English, French, Arabic in the north, and some of them Portuguese and some others. So it's not rocket science to have a team that speaks 2-3 languages, at least as a beginning. But the ultimate thing, as I mentioned before, is that you need to have people on the ground, because if you really want to do business in Ethiopia, for example, you need to have people speaking Amharic or other local languages in other places of Africa. What I mentioned before about the commodities also applies here. It's another interesting map. I'm not going to go into details because time is pushing us. So different countries, different regions, different types of commodities that produce and export. Sometimes it plays a role in your strategy, whether you are an importer or an exporter. And it also can help you understand the type of economy. This is the hidden thing here, that the type of economy many times is implied by the type of raw materials that certain countries have. Trade data. I used to be a fighter of data because I was under the impression that only live action is the key. After gaining experience all these years and becoming a bit more wiser, I came to understand that data and action go together. You need to have the right data. You need to have the right information. You need to have the ability and the experience to analyze them in order to save time and money and avoid mistakes. So after you do your preparation, your intelligence, then you set up a strategy and you are already ahead of your competitors. And then, of course, the ultimate goal and the ultimate weapon is to be on the ground. That's why I told you, hop on a plane, go into the market and apply what you've learned, learn new things, maneuver, find custom solutions, change your perspective. And this is the only way for you to grow. So the manual, let's say in a slide, the order of operations that actually works, and this comes out of 20 years of experience. Data first. You need to have the trade flows, your competitors, the corridors, and other types of data in order to shortlist 6 to 8 markets and commit only to 2 or 3. You cannot go for everything. You need to take it step by step. You need to find verified buyers. This is a huge operation by itself. And this operation involves lots of mistakes, lots of incomplete information. Of course, you need to try to do video calls before any flight. And yes, it's a good thing to do due diligence over distance. You can do at a certain extent, but everything will be completed on the ground. You need to meet them on the ground. You need to do the due diligence on the ground across the market. And also, you need to be very careful with your money. It's a topic for a webinar by itself, but exports is a very expensive hobby, but it's a hobby to gain money and to create win-win situations for both the importer and the exporter, and not to lose money. And the more meetings that you have booked before flying somewhere, it's a huge plus, because it gives you food for thought to continue with the rest of your trips. So let me check the comments now, because it's already getting late. Let's see if we have anything that I should comment. I will take it from the beginning. Thank you very much for the chambers. I will leave you with this slide, which is our 4 companies: Mr. Export to Africa, ExportIQ, our platform, Amplify Sales, lead generation across the world, and Workout AI automations. So I see many people that I already know and some that I don't know. Hello to Mr. Lyon. Hi, Mr. Piri. Great, Mr. Lyon. Your field is quite interesting. It combines what I said about data and also the commodities and raw material. Thank you so much. I hope you gained something today, and feel free to contact us even further. Hi, Mr. Vasco. Yeah, feel free to contribute even further. Mr. Jonathan from France, in Benin. Benin is a country that we've done business, but I've never been there, unfortunately. It's one of the few countries in Africa that I've never been there, and I've heard so many wonderful things. Mr. Hailu from Ethiopia. Ethiopia is a country that I've spent quite lots of time. Big market, huge market, wonderful people, great cuisine. I really like the food and the coffee, of course. Not ideal, unfortunately, for international trading. There are many barriers, but throughout the years, there are so many big steps going on. 10 years ago, I found very I found it very difficult to do business there as an exporter. Nowadays, it's a bit easier, but still, I think it needs some time. Thank you, everyone, for the nice words. Angola and Portugal, of course, I mentioned that there are countries that speak Portuguese. Angola is a huge market that recently opened for the international traders. That's a good thing. Mozambique is a country that we've done lots of business. I've been there many times, as well as my business partner. Many opportunities there, strategic location. And yes, Leila, indeed, energy is mentioned everywhere, but not many investments are happening, at least percentage-wise, in Africa, that would justify the potential. All right, I see an interesting one from Mr. Barroso Ingham concerning software companies. He's asking, what do you think of this from the perspective of software companies, how the cultures and ideologies of what you pitch for on the road, business versus online software? So it's a combination. So it's a combination that it's never black or white. We've represented more than 20 companies selling software. Most of them have been successful because they surpass the problems of logistics, customs, clearance, physical goods, transportation, etc. And Africa needs solutions because the problems are there. And if you have, remember what I said before, if you have a product, a solution that can solve problems in Africa, then you're in the right place. Software companies are easier to develop. They need a different approach, don't get me wrong, but we've dealt from logistic software to medical software to there are so many, like more traditional sales, CRMs, whatever. And you can find the right place. But again, you need to follow all the steps that we described. A quick question from Mr. Russoso. When pitching for investment in Africa projects to VCs, the issue of inadequate data to make decisions, changing regulations, currency instability keeps popping up. How do we go around that problem to secure investment? Your presentation is excellent. Thank you very much, Mr. Russoso. It's a question that doesn't have a straightforward answer. We are talking about VCs. Now, let me first say that I've been to pitches from companies to different types of investors more than, 200 times in my life. Angel investors, VCs, institutional, private, family offices. So there's no one size fits all. And there's no one size fits all, even for the VCs, the venture capitals that you are talking about. Because it's that much difficult to change the perspective that they have because of what I was saying before, from the traditional media, the Western media, that you need to know exactly what you are talking about. You need to be a very good salesman in order to be in a room with a VC board and on the fly get the feedback, get them back what they want to listen, what they want to hear, but not to deceive them. Because VCs, at the end of the day, they look at numbers. So you give them reliable data that can be proven and can be sourced. If you give them case studies, if you give them success stories, and of course, if you have the profile that you have the authority and they can trust you, then this is the best base in order to start growing, let's say, a successful pitch. It's not easy. I've been to discussions with many VCs because I thought because they are investing globally, they would invest in Africa. And that was not the case, because they are afraid, apart from the fact that there are certain VCs dealing with specific sectors, but also they're excluding Africa because they don't know Africa, they don't understand Africa. So if you have the right package and concrete information, this is the best way to start. Thank you, Mr. Tamrat from Ethiopia. Mr. Jonathan, what services exist to help English-speaking companies outside of Africa to export to French or Portuguese-speaking African markets? And inversely, to help African companies to export to countries that speak a different language? All right, that is quite interesting and very common, to be honest. Everybody speaks English. Many speak French. A bit less speak Portuguese. But when you want to target as a non-native speaker to a country that doesn't speak your language, or you don't speak their language, what I said before, you need to have someone that speaks their language. Because it's not only that you will be able to communicate, you will be able to approach them deeper, to gain their trust, to understand behind the words. So yes, as an English-speaking company that want to export to French or Portuguese, you need to have French-speaking or Portuguese-speaking people, whether they're from Africa or not. Ideally from Africa, of course, but I mean, also you need to have someone within your organization. It's the only way. And not only speaking the language, but also understand a bit the culture of the country speaking the respective language. Mr. Aruna from Sierra Leone, a wonderful country that has suffered a lot, but I really admire, and definitely I would like to do business there someday. Mr. Riviera, thank you. Perfect. Mr. Cameron, one of the last comments, you mentioned earlier that free trade has let some countries down. What's your views on SADC free trade? Thanks for the information. All right, so SADC, I would say, is one of the most successful trade unions. It has served the southern region of Africa well for years. Zambia is a part of SADC, where we are based, and we also do trading, taking advantage of the SADC legislation and directives. So I would say that the least successful was in West Africa, at least in my opinion, in my perspective. The most successful was in Southern Africa, including SADC. And of course, East Africa comes somewhere in the middle with East African Community, with COMESA. But what I came to realize is that there are so many different between them, among them, all these, that it's not like you are going to get the same things between two SADC countries and two ECOWAS countries. So you need to be very knowledgeable, dig very deep, and surprises are always there. So that's why I'm saying that maybe a Pan-African, let's say, union like AFTA, when it's implemented and if, it's going to solve many problems. Of course, many leaders in the past in Africa tried to centralize things and tried to unify. That didn't go well for different reasons, but it's another topic. So, Mr. Barroso, thank you so much. Mr. Ali Fuad, you are very welcome. So if there's no other question, we've already 10 minutes past the time. Thank you so much. Feel free to contact us. You deserve your 30 minutes consultation if you want to. You can visit websites, especially ExportIQ, gain lots of valuable information. That was me. Hopefully in the future, we're going to continue doing that. You can give me ideas. You can give us ideas. At Mr. Export to Africa, we're very open in the topics that you would like to hear. And hopefully in the future, more people are going to join. Thank you so much. Until the next time, It was a pleasure. It was the first time doing a live webinar, free to the public. I've done lots of them, but I mean, in certain closed groups. So yeah, until next time, thank you so much. Keep well. Cheers.